Agnieszka Soltysik Monnet, you're Professor of American Literature at the University of Lausanne, also co-director of the New American Studies Master's Specialization at that university. As a scholar of American Studies, you've devoted attention to US popular culture, among other things. What can studying popular culture tell us about European and US empire and imperialism?
Well, before I answer the question about popular culture, I should say something about studying American culture in general. I think you cannot study American culture honestly without studying imperialism. I think that it's kind of in the genetic code of American culture as it's developed. And imperialism in America is the result of the convergence, the unfortunate convergence of several master narratives that have been important to the development of America, including the master narrative of infinite growth, which we see both on the level of initially geography, expansion of territory, but now we see economically still a myth that is very, very entrenched. Also the myth or master narrative of American masculinity being intimately rooted in regenerative violence. And finally, the myth of American exceptionalism or self-righteousness or moral righteousness. And so all these master narratives have come together to create in America a mentality and a pervasive master kind of policy of imperialism that is both invisible and omnipresent. And so popular culture is a way of looking at it, because popular culture is where it gets normalized and where it gets glamorized to a great extent and where it gets justified. So my specific interest at the moment is adventure as a genre. And adventure as a genre is associated closely, to whatever extent it's studied at all, with British literature. But it is acknowledged to be a genre of British Empire. What isn't really acknowledged is to what extent America has inherited that mode and that genre as a way of underpinning stories about war, underpinning stories about exploration and about encounters with foreign countries and racially marked others. And so adventure is a kind of substratum that I think we find in a lot of different media and in a lot of different stories, but specifically stories about war, which we have all the time, because America is often at war, and it's a subject that fascinates people, and it sells. Hollywood has made a lot of money because war is both exciting and it's about death, and so it's inherently interesting, but it also has to do with these kind of master narratives about American culture. So people, there's an endless market for it.
What do you think are the effects of the adventure narrative on primarily the US public, but also maybe on a global audience? What does it do?
Adventure is about traveling to a dangerous liminal place, a frontier of some kind, and encountering violent others and overcoming them, and ultimately having fun doing so. So I think that on a national level, for a domestic market, the adventurizing of war has made it seem both personally redemptive on some level for a lot of people who buy into the myth, the idea that you test yourself and you discover your mettle as a man, you discover who you are, you discover that you're the best, because that's what every American wants to know, is that they're the best, and that it's necessary, because the films show that these places are dangerous and they're filled with irredeemably violent people, and so therefore you can kill them and feel at the same time guilt-free about it because it's their fault, and they've brought it on themselves in some way or another. And globally, I think it's exported as an entertainment product, and so people can pretend to watch it, or they can actually feel like they're watching it without imbibing the ideological underpinnings of it. And you can repress it, you can put it aside, and imagine you're just watching an action film on some level or another and enjoying it as an entertainment, even though I think that nevertheless it does work in some insidious sort of way to normalize this kind of violence and make it seem inevitable. And I think that there's a lot of people all over the world who do think that combat and violent confrontation are both potentially fun and potentially meaningful.